they have the pronunciation here, and I believe it's Lee-Wee's Escape. I would say Lai-Hui. But anyway, Lee-Wee's Escape, and the story takes place in Vietnam. And I know my dad is very familiar at one time with Vietnam. And it was also during that time when the story takes place. Lee-Wee slept restlessly on his mat of straw. It was not the hard floor of dried mud on which his mat was spread that made him restless. Neither was it the sound of war nearby. To these he long had been accustomed. Usually, Wee slept soundly, as do most 9-year-old boys. But it was Wee's dream which disturbed him. In the dream, he seemed to hear again the voices of village children. They told of listening to 2 strange ladies. One, they said, was a pale woman with yellow hair and blue eyes who spoke a foreign language. With her was a Vietnamese lady who showed them a black book which told about a foreign god and how to get to heaven. In his dream, we heard the boys and girls say, "The book is magic. Our Buddhist priest said so. With this book, the pale lady gets boys and girls to go to the big city. There they take out the dark eyes of our Vietnamese children and send them to those of another land who have only blue eyes. Our priest says we must not listen to her. If we do, Buddha will be furious. Our priest made both women leave our village. He said the Vietnamese woman is under the spell of the light-skinned lady. Beware of the pale woman." Little Kim was not disturbed by dreams. She had learned even as a baby that her brother Wee always took good care of her. She felt safe when he was near, so she slept soundly on her mat next to him. Their mother and father slept close by in their one-room thatch-roofed home. Wee felt someone shaking him awake. In the darkness, he could not see who it was. Frightened, he sprang to his feet. "Have I been dreaming?" he wondered. "Or has the pale lady come to take me away?" His mother's soft voice soothed him. "Don't be afraid, my son," she whispered. "It is only that the guns are getting closer. Your father says we must escape. Shh, we must not waken Kim." We could barely see the shadowy figure of his mother as she felt her way around. Still whispering, she said, "I have packed a bundle with some clothing and food. You are to carry Kim and this stick. Your father will lead the pig, but if it gets lazy, you poke it with a stick. Make him walk fast. We must hurry before the soldiers get here." Wee was wide awake now. He heard the pig grunt as his father tied a rope around his body. They were on their way to where? No one knew exactly, not even father. He knew only that he must get his family beyond range of those guns. He was terrified of the enemy soldiers, terrified of what might happen to him and his family. They hurried on in the darkness. Wee's mother balanced the food bundle on her head. Carefully, she carried the little image of Buddha wrapped in cloth. To let it fall would surely displease the gods and perhaps bring worse disaster to her family. Wee toted the sleeping Kim on his hip. In the other hand, he held the stick, which he had to use often on the pig. The pig did not like being tied with rope, nor did he want to be pulled and prodded. Indeed, the pig did not like having to move, so he voiced his displeasure with loud grunts. They trudged a long time before the sun began to rise. Then the father said, "We must look for a place to hide." The rice field looked inviting. At the water's edge, they settled down wearily. Lying there, we could see some water buffalo. He watched the herons, picking and eating snails and small fish. He thought, "Those buffalo and herons are friendly to each other. Why can't people be like that instead of fighting?" That night, and for many nights, the family plodded along under cover of darkness. They took shelter near a rice field or in an abandoned hut before the sun began to rise. It was not safe to travel by day, for they would be spotted by airplanes. They will drop a bomb on anything that moves, the father warned. When they found a hut to stay in, Wee's mother managed to make a tiny fire, just big enough to boil some rice. She knew the firelight might let the enemy know where they were, but, she said, it is less dangerous than risking a fire out of doors where it surely would be spotted by planes. The mother boiled as much rice as she could, fed the family, and put some in a sack to be safe for the next day, and perhaps the next. After eating their rice, they spread their mats and slept until nightfall. Then they started out again. By now, they knew they were headed toward a big city where they hoped to find safety. Often they heard news through others who were also fleeing from their homes. One boy, Wee's age, carried a year-old brother. His parents had been torn from him. He whispered to Wee, "When we get to the river, I'll get somebody to tie my brother on my back, and we'll swim to safety. We'll never again have to be afraid of these soldiers." Wee was glad his father was a good swimmer. He'd take care of Kim. One morning, early, as Wee and his family were eating their rice, they heard voices outside the hut, men's voices. One said, "Our search team went through this village and we know it was deserted, but last night a scout reported seeing some families traveling this way. He said one family has a pig." "Let's find them. Even thinking of a pig dinner makes me hungry." Both men laughed as they walked near the tiny hut where Wee and his family were hiding. Quickly, Wee picked up his little sister. Holding her tightly in his arms, he crouched low in a corner. Kim looked up at him, frightened. "Don't be afraid, little sister," Wee whispered. "I'll protect you. I'll never, never leave you. Never." Wee rocked Kim in his arms, whispering as he did so, "Na, na, na, don't cry. The soldiers will hear you. Be very quiet." Wee saw his father tiptoe toward his mother, standing in front of her to protect her. All were breathless and perfectly quiet, all but the pig. "Oink, oink," it grunted. The family was petrified. Outside, a communist soldier called, "Did I hear a pig grunt?" "Yes," the other answered. "I think it came from inside the hut. Let's get it." The soldiers, stooping low, rushed into the hut. Blinking one exclaimed, "Well, what have we here? Something more than a pig, I see." Both soldiers grabbed Wee's father. Dragging him outside, one demanded, "What are you doing here?" Without waiting for an answer, he continued, "You work for the government," pointing his rifle at the poor man. A shot rang out, and Wee stole to the opening of the hut, peeking outside. There lay his father, dead. Before the soldiers turned again toward the hut, Wee rushed to the corner to protect Kim. His mother handed the Buddha to him. Then turning slowly, she swayed a little, fainted, and fell quietly in a heap. Wee made no sound, but he shuddered and broke out in a cold sweat as he saw one of the soldiers carry his mother outside. The other soldier dragged the pig. Wee heard one say, "Well, we got quite a loot, a pig and a woman." Both men laughed, loud, harsh laughter. Wee watched his mother and the pig being dragged away until he could see them no longer. Sadly, he turned to little Kim and fed her some rice. He could eat nothing. The lump in his throat was in the way. Wee knew it would be safer to stay inside than go outdoors. He felt sure the soldiers had no interest in him nor Kim, who was now sound asleep. Exhausted, Wee curled up on the straw mat beside his little sister. From time to time, Kim whimpered in her sleep. When Wee put his arm over her, she became quiet. In her light sleep, she sensed her brother was taking care of her. The bursting bombs and zooming jets did not disturb her at all. Wee thought, "I shall never let anyone take Kim away from me. Never, never." Much later, he finally dozed off. Both children slept the rest of the day and into the night. When they awoke, Wee's first thoughts were of his father and mother and the terrible things which had happened. His next thought was, "We should have been on our way hours ago." He scooped up the rice his mother had prepared, offered some to his idol, Buddha, and thinned out some for Kim. He himself ate a tiny portion, thinking, "I am responsible for Kim. I wonder where my mother is. Oh, why did they kill my father? I must be a man, but can I? Yes, I must. I shall." Doing as his father had done, Wee followed others who were fleeing for safety. All moved cautiously and only at night. During the daylight hours, both children slept in some hiding place. Each day he thinned out the rice a bit more for Kim. Each day he ate less and less himself. And each day as he carried his little sister, she felt lighter than before. What would mother do if she were here, he wondered. Oh, what did those soldiers do with her? Wee managed to drag out on wearily toward the big city. He was certain he would find food there. And find food he did in the big city. But it was food he begged, stole, or found in garbage cans. He went on the street only at night. By day, he and Kim slept in alleys or dumps. Their clothing became ragged and filthy, and they were very, very hungry. Yet always he offered a part of their food to the idol Buddha. One night, Wee ventured out a bit earlier than usual. He knew he had to find food or they would both die. He was so weak he could scarcely carry his wee sister. If only she were old enough to walk just a little, he thought, and was immediately ashamed of himself. Even if she were old enough, she was too weak to take one step. Where is my mother? What happened to her? He thought anxiously. Remembering his idol, he said, Buddha, why don't you help us? Every day I give you some of the food we need, but you do not help. Why? And we'll stop there.